Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Leon Charles, and this is my colleague, Ms. Kristen Clark. And as previously mentioned, we're from the Department of Geography, and we're presenting today community-based environmental management through a PBL approach. So we're both undergraduate students pursuing a bachelor's degree in geography and environmental and natural resource management. For me, I chose geography because I had always liked the subject, and I'd always enjoyed learning about the physical landscapes as well as people and their respective environments and how those two variables interact with one another and how they affect one another. So when I decided to pursue tertiary education, it was only fitting that I continue to enhance that knowledge in geography.
Funny story, I actually came into the university studying something else completely different. And during here, being in my first year, I realized that I had a persuasion towards like environmental things. So being there and deciding that, I think I actually enjoy pursuing this more and I can actually see myself in this field, I decided to switch and go into the Department of Geography to do the double major.
So the image that you see displayed on the screen represents my involvement in my community and how I have unknowingly applied problem-based learning even before being exposed to it. And so the mapping of the Heights of Rebo community commenced in 2016, and it was a collaboration with the Department of Geography as well as the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, an intern from that agency by the name of Ms. Annabella Thorne, as well as the Heights of Rebo Community Council. And through the mapping of my community, we basically highlighted everything that was important to Aripo, everything that the community members deemed as being important. So it was a participatory mapping exercise. And in doing so, we identified the things that were deemed as being important in terms of the social aspect, the economic aspect, as well as the physical aspect. And so I decided to employ an alternative approach by starting with a small group within the community and then expanding. And I have been liaising with the Aripo RC Primary School to start the recycling initiative there. And from the primary school, the intention is to expand to the wider community, but in a progressive manner and by working with groups of community members so that it's more efficient in terms of them being willing and able to understand it as well as to commit to the endeavor.
So as you can see from the picture over there, it's me wearing a shirt of plastic bottles, and now this is me on a beach cleanup. So what I decided to do is, well, first I identified the problem, and the problem was that a lot of people, in general in Trinidad, but also on our campus and the university campus, was an area in which I was able to go through all these stages. So I decided that I identified the problem of lack of awareness in plastic pollution, and a lot of people don't realize how deleterious it is to the environment. And so I decided to make a statement, and I walked around campus. I've done it about 3 or 4 times throughout my degree, and I've walked around campus basically going up to people and engaging them in trying to make them aware of the plastic pollution, especially water bottles, because it is a problem that we have on campus, and especially with the advent of our water coolers or filling up a bottle from home, the effects that you can have, it's a lot more sustainable if you're able to take your reusable water bottle, and it's a lot more eco-friendly. So that was my take on seeing the problem and trying to find a solution to it.
So with regards to the role that we see problem-based learning playing within our current and past coursework, is that it's there, but it's not present to a great extent, in that in coursework assignments we're typically given a scenario within which a problem is identified, and we're required to employ the content that would have been delivered in the course to generate a solution to the problem. And in most of the instances, yes, the students have been able to do that, But there's still an issue with that. It remains hypothetical in that we're required to solve real-world problems, but the steps where other variables like actual people may come into play, we don't exactly get exposed to that. And so when graduates sometimes are thrown into the working world and presented with real-world problems, they theoretically have an idea of how to solve the problem, but actually accounting for variables such as the people who will be affected by whatever solution that's derived, that becomes a hurdle, so to speak, and it becomes difficult to solve, to find an efficient solution to the problem. So we also believe that a lack of problem-based learning is possibly why a lot of graduates have difficulty acquiring a job. Employers typically perceive that, they don't perceive it, it's true. We lack experience, and that experience can be enhanced with a greater practical aspect in problem-based learning within coursework. So actually placing students within the field to derive a solution to a problem, but actually accounting for all of the variables that affects the respective organization would be more effective for working students. And so we believe that there should be more problem-based learning within our coursework, and with the introduction of a practical aspect to it.
And problem-based learning will not only benefit our stakeholders and future employers, however, it will also benefit us as students ourselves, so that we get a more holistic learning experience, because it's 2019 and we can't say that we have moved away slowly but surely from a more traditional sense of teaching where you come to a classroom, they give you knowledge and you leave and you're a sponge. However, we believe that with the advent of an increase in problem-based learning, that students will be more able to critically think and not just have knowledge for knowledge's sake, but be able to apply it specifically to the real world, within the real world. And with that, we would like to conclude our presentation.